everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com, back with another episode of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. This is episode 40. Today I'm going to be answering your questions that you've sent to me via email to charles@humblemechanic.com. And you put question for Charles in the subject so that I know what your email's about. So yesterday was the Super Bowl. I was really bummed that Volkswagen didn't have a Super Bowl commercial, but that little kid Darth Vader one's pretty hard to top from a few years ago. If you had a favorite Super Bowl commercial, please post it in the comments. I'd love to know. I'll be posting mine later today, and with any luck, it will be automotive related, but you never know. Anyway, let's get right into your questions. First up is from Barry. He says he's got a 12 Passat and Jetta, both with the 2.5 engines, and he's getting white sludge buildup on the bottom of the oil filler cap and on the dipstick in the winter months. He knows it's moisture related, which is absolutely correct, but he's never seen it that bad before. So that seems to come with big temperature swings, and it's actually condensation building up on the bottom of the oil cap. To be honest, I haven't seen it in the 2.5 liters really. That used to be a big deal in the older 2-liter non-turbos. We got so many 2-liter engines now that I have to be very specific about the 2-liter that I'm talking about. Depending on how much there is, really depends on how big of a deal it is, Barry. A little bit's probably not that big of a deal. If it's a lot, then you might want to get it looked at. Again, I haven't really ran into it on that engine, but I know those older 2-liters were pretty good about it, and you would get, several millimeters of buildup on the bottom of the oil cap and in the oil filler neck. It just basically comes from temperature change inside the engine versus outside and forms condensation. So, Barry, if you want to send me a picture of it, I'll take a closer look and, maybe direct you from there. But it never hurts to bring it by the dealership and have them look at it. But good question. Like I said, I haven't seen that too much on the 2.5. Seen it a touch on the... All right, great question, Barry. Thank you very much for that. Next up, Hayden asks, what are my thoughts on the 3.6 VR engine overall? Pros and cons. So, the 3.6 came in the Passat and in the Touareg and the CC. The very early ones, I would probably stay away from unless they've already had the oil pump bolt replaced. They were good about having the oil pump bolt back out or break. That could cause big time engine damage. Usually we caught it before it did, because they made a hell of a lot of noise, and you get timing faults for it. I like the engine a lot. It's the 10.6 degree V that Jason and I talked about in the VR6 video we did. In the Touareg, it was a little bit better. I only seen one oil pump bolt failure. It was more in the Passat, and really I don't even think they were having the issue with the CC, because the CC hadn't come out yet. I like the engine again. I think it's an awesome VR. It's a heck of an upgrade from the 2.8 and the 3.2. I think those are all direct injection, which does lend itself to a bit of carbon buildup. I've seen that a couple of times on that generation of VR6, so that's something to be aware of. All in all, the VR is a pretty good engine, and it has been traditionally, in my opinion, through the Volkswagen history of the VR. But if you're thinking about buying a car with the VR in it, or any used car, take it to the dealership and get it checked out before you do. Also run like a Carfax on it and make sure that the vehicle is in good shape overall. It hasn't been wrecked or anything like that. Performance-wise, I don't know how much ECM tuning there is available for it, but I will tell you they sound really good with a nice exhaust system. So, Hayden, great question. Thank you for that. If you get one, post it and let us know. All right, next up comes from Nick, who sends me a bunch of good stuff. He said on the Tiguan that I posted a picture of a Tiguan getting a decarb the other day. Basically, he wanted to know what kind of mileage we're starting to see cold start misfires due to carbon buildup on the valves. Nick, awesome question. It sort of ranges all over the place. This carbon buildup thing with direct injection is not only a problem for Volkswagen, it's across the board on all direct injection. Manufacturers are starting to put throttle body injectors or something similar to that further upstream, so it washes some of this carbon off the backs of the valves. The mileage that we traditionally see a real problem seems to be in the 50 to 60,000 mile range. It seems to be a lot of cars that we get in on trade and then certify, and then, either then or 6 months later, they start to get these cold start misfires due to the carbon buildup. But I've also seen them as low as 15,000. And there's plenty of 2-liter turbos running around that have never had the issue at all. So there's a lot going on with this cold start misfire, carbon buildup on direct injection issue. Some of it's crank vent system, some of it's, blow by from the oil control rings. I probably should do a whole video about it. The problem is it's a lot of theory and not a lot of 100% proof. And with stuff like that, I don't like to dive too deep into the theory woods of what's going on with it. But it is a problem on all direct injection. I know BMW's got a special tool for it. Hyundai, Kia, they have problems with it too. So, and someone sent me the list of the patents, and it looks like based on that, they knew that this might be an issue. So we'll see what happens. I did do some testing with the BG product as well as a TerraClean product. These products will not solve the cold start misfire problem. They will not solve the carbon buildup on the back of the valves once it's there, but I got a good feeling it might help. And with one of the BG products, I actually did see a compression increase. So hopefully that would be, an indicator of a healthier engine, especially when it comes to misfires. So I'll do a video on that. I got to get some more facts together before I do it. And again, I don't want to be in the theory weeds with all of that stuff. So great question, Nick. Again, keep sending me good stuff. I really do appreciate it. Okay, Chris is having an issue with his DSG transmission. It seems to be when the vehicle is cold that there's issues with the 1-2 shift. It's a harsh shift or a jerky shift from first to second gear. I guess it looks like the dealership's doing a fluid exchange, doing a fluid flush, which I've never heard of that on a DSG or heard it solving any issues. Chris, good question. I hate that the situation that you're having. I will say and he's got an 07 GTI. I've put a lot of mechatronic units in that generation of DSG for that exact issue, a harsh shift from 1 to 2, a stutter on acceleration in first gear. Because yours is so temperature related, it could still absolutely be the mechatronics unit. I almost wonder if it's more of a dual clutch issue rather than just a mech unit issue. Usually, from what I've seen, dual clutch issues happen in higher gears, not 1 to 2. 1 to 2 shift was for a long time, if it had a harsh shift from 1 to 2, you would put a mech unit in it, and that was pretty much the diagnostic process for it. So I'm also scared for you because those are expensive. The last one I priced was in the $2,500 price range. Double check with the local dealer on any warranty extension here in the US. Some DSGs did have a warranty extension on them. Because you're not in the US, I don't know what it would be for you, but have the dealership double check before you pay any money on a DSG repair and make sure that you're not covered under any kind of warranty extension. And good luck, man. I hope that works out for you and that you don't have to pay that bill, because there's nothing good about paying that high dollar of a bill. So good luck, man. I hope that works out. But I'd probably be more in the mechatronic unit than the dual clutch, because really, and he had seen the video that Jason and I did with the DSG. Really, there's 3 repairs for the DSG at the dealership level. It's replace the mechatronics unit, replace the dual clutch pack, or replace the transmission. They don't have us really tearing into the DSGs at all. That may change in the future, but for right now, that's kind of where we're at. All right, Al has a question about another question about direct injection and carbon buildup. All right, so basically what he wants to know is if Volkswagen could fix the problem with better oil separators or better crank vent valves. I know there's a lot of guys putting catch cans on. Long term, that may be a good solution without, reinventing the wheel, so to say. I don't know. I've never ran a catch can on any car I've ever owned. If you have and you have been tracking your carbon buildup on your valves, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you about it. It's not something that I've ever done, so I don't want to speculate on how good or bad it would be. It makes sense, but you're also adding more maintenance to what you're doing with the catch can. So, but hey, it's better than having to pay however much for a decarb. And he's also got an R-Line Tiguan, which is awesome. They are a little quirky, but and this is actually why I put this question on it, because I've talked a lot about the carbon buildup. But Al, this is the funniest part and why I put it on here. He said, by the way, do I ever get fluids in my beard besides beer, like oil, coolant, or anything else? I try really hard not to. It's like this bottom spot that sometimes gets oil or coolant or whatever. But it's a lot of awkward head positioning to try and keep that from happening. And I don't spill a whole lot of beer, so that's not too big of an issue. And I know somebody else had asked me about keeping oil and stuff out of my beard, so it's a lot of weird head positioning, and that seems to do the trick. I'm actually more concerned about getting it caught in a fan or some sort of rotating part than anything, but good question, Al. And like I said, it seems like I'm going to have to probably do a whole show about carbon buildup. Like I mentioned a minute ago, I did some testing on BG with a Tiguan that I got some good pictures for, so I will do that as soon as I have all that information available. All right, Roger asks, he was planning on pulling the engine out of his B5 Quattro to do some work on it. He's worked on the Mark IV generation, which is Golf Beetle Jetta, that have the transverse engine, so the engine is side to side in the engine compartment, where the B series is longitudinal, so it's front to back. He asked if it's easier to pull the engine out with the transmission attached to it or just the engine itself. It really depends on how you're doing it. If you have a lift and, you know, all the equipment. I think the last B series engine I replaced, I pulled the engine and transmission out because I was doing a clutch, so it was a manual transmission and it was crazy easy. I don't think with those it's really that bad either way. Those engines are pretty easy to pull out, especially when you pull the front end off the car. You basically just pull the engine straight forward and it's not too bad. Just make sure you disconnect all the connectors. That's really the big thing on those. You know, make sure you get the multifunction switch unplugged and everything else on the transmission. So I would pull it out all as one unit. It seems easier to me. Then you don't have to fuss with the torque converter if it's an automatic transmission. But good question, Roger. Thank you very much for that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you all very much for the wonderful questions. Again, if you would like to submit a question for a show like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com, and put question for Charles in the subject so that I know exactly what your email's about. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and post them in the comments section below. If you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog, humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, obviously on YouTube, and of course at humblemechanic.com. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.